The Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration. The Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration has completed an inquiry into the effects of the hybrid learning system on student performance in government and government-assisted schools during the revised COVID-19 restrictions. A brief history of the committee's consideration of the impact of COVID-19 on the education system. The committee began examining the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the education system during the 5th session of the 11th Parliament and presented a report on an inquiry into the Ministry of Education's strategies for ensuring continuity in the delivery of education amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. During that inquiry, the committee consulted various stakeholders, including the Ministry of Education, the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, denominational school boards, primary and secondary school principals associations, and organizations representing students with special needs. The committee was re-established at the commencement of the 12th Parliament in August 2020. Given the significant impact of COVID-19 on the delivery of education, the committee determined that the examination of this issue should be resumed. On this occasion, the committee decided that it would examine the effects of the hybrid blended learning system on student performance in government and government-assisted schools during the revised COVID-19 restrictions. The inquiry was guided by the following objectives: to assess the effectiveness of the hybrid learning system used by government and government-assisted schools in curriculum delivery, to compare and contrast student performance using traditional versus hybrid learning systems for similar time periods, to examine the systems and methods used to monitor and evaluate student performance in the hybrid learning environment, and to assess the readiness of the hybrid learning system to adequately prepare students for external examinations. During this latest inquiry, the committee engaged with key stakeholders in the delivery of online and distance learning, including the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Public Administration and Digital Transformation, the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, denominational school boards, primary and secondary schools principals associations, organizations representing students with special needs, the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, and Internet service providers. Main recommendations. The committee gave key recommendations to enhance the delivery of education during the pandemic. For Objective 1, the Ministry of Education needs to develop targeted intervention strategies for vulnerable students, namely those with special needs, low-performing students, and students from low-income families. The Ministry of Education, in conjunction with the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs, needs to address legislative deficiencies regarding enrollment of special needs students in mainstream education, as there have been challenges with interpreting the Education Act, Chapter 3901. The Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the Ministry of Public Administration and Digital Transformation, should develop satellite schools using community centers, religious institutions, and other community-based spaces that can facilitate adequate social distancing where students and parents can access learning resources. Under Objective 2, recommendations were that the Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the various school boards, should develop a targeted intervention plan for underperforming students to receive remedial tutoring. Types of tutoring support programs could include peer tutoring, as well as harnessing the networks of past student associations to recruit alumni volunteer tutors. The Ministry of Education should strengthen initiatives to train parents of vulnerable students on how to effectively use digital learning platforms. This solution may involve creating video tutorials that can be viewed on demand. For Objective 3, the committee recommends that the Ministry of Education should conduct an evaluation of the assessment tools and strategies used by teachers during the pandemic. The results should be used to develop an assessment policy for the online learning environment, inclusive of rubrics. The Ministry of Education needs to ensure that teachers' aides are assigned to a greater number of students who require this type of support. And for Objective 4, the committee recommendations were that the Ministry of Education should conduct research on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on both preparations for CSEC and CAPE examinations and the results. The Ministry of Education should collaborate with its regional counterparts to request that CXC consider the variables and conditions generated by the pandemic which are adversely impacting the preparation of secondary school students for the high-stake examinations of CSEC and CAPE. What's next? The standing orders of the House of Representatives and the Senate mandate that the minister responsible for the relevant ministry or body under review has 60 days to respond to the recommendations of a Joint Select Committee report. For more information on the committee's report and other bills and legislation, visit our website at www.ttparliament.org and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. The Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration.